Elias Trent had always thought of himself as invisible. Not in the poetic, mysterious way that humans like to romanticize, but in the very real, practical sense that the universe did not notice him. On the massive interstellar station Aurora Hub, a floating city that hummed with engines, lights, and the constant chatter of alien languages, Elias was just a mechanic. That was it. Nothing more. He repaired airlocks, fixed broken engines, and occasionally reassembled parts that had been chewed up by careless pilots. Most people didn't see mechanics like him. They saw stars, diplomats, traders, and heroes, people who went on missions that changed the galaxy. But Elias was the man who held the station together, and if anyone noticed him at all, it was usually to complain. He liked it that way. It was simpler. No pressure, no expectations, no meetings with bureaucrats who thought his work was beneath them. He woke up each morning to the smell of burnt oil and recycled air, put on his coveralls, and got to work. Today was no different. The station's maintenance corridors smelled of grease and ozone. The hum of the station's artificial gravity thrummed like a heartbeat beneath his feet. He moved quickly, eyes scanning a panel that had been sparking all night. Sparks leapt from the control board as he carefully adjusted the wiring. "Easy there," he muttered, tightening a bolt. "Don't try to kill me before breakfast." It was a joke he had made to himself for years. There was no one around to laugh. He worked alone in this section of the station, and he preferred it that way. But today, something was different. A sudden sound echoed through the corridor, soft but deliberate. Footsteps, fast, light, and not human. Elias froze. "Hello?" he called. His voice sounded smaller than he wanted. No answer. He turned toward the source, expecting perhaps a janitor or a stray maintenance drone. Instead, a figure appeared at the far end of the hall. A girl. She looked no older than 17, though it was impossible to tell. Her skin shimmered faintly, a soft silvery blue that caught the light of the corridor. Her hair floated around her head as if under water, and her eyes, large and glowing, studied him with a mix of fear and determination. Elias swallowed. He had seen alien races before, hundreds of them, each stranger than the last, but there was something about her that made him stumble over his own thoughts. Before he could say anything, she ran toward him. Her movement was fluid, almost too fast for him to follow. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of him, reaching out. "You!" she gasped. "You must come with me." "Excuse me? You!" she repeated, grabbing his arm with surprising strength. "They are coming!" You're mine to protect. Mine to wait. What? The sound of alarms began to echo from the station's command center. Lights flashed red along the corridor walls. Elias, still holding a spanner in one hand, stared at the girl. Who are they?" he asked. She shook her head. "I don't have time to explain." You have to come with me!" It was absurd, completely impossible. And yet, her gaze burned with a seriousness that made him hesitate. Something in her voice, in her eyes, told him that this was not a game, not a trick. Before he could protest further, several figures appeared down the corridor. They moved quickly, their uniforms sleek and precise, and their weapons, though not drawn, projected authority and threat. They were humans, aliens, some kind of hybrid beings. All of them stopped when they saw her with Elias. "No!" One of them barked in a sharp, clicking language that Elias did not understand. The girl's words responded in the same language, though faster, softer, urgent. And then she spoke again in perfect basic, the galactic common tongue. "Elias Trent," she said, looking straight at him. "You are chosen. You are mine." The hallway went silent. Everyone froze. Elias felt his knees go weak. Chosen? For what? Look, I fix engines. I change air filters. That's it. She tilted her head, as though considering him. That is exactly why. You fix what is broken. You protect what others overlook. That is the test they cannot pass. Before he could process her words, she moved again, pressing a small device against his chest. A warm light spread from it, settling over him. The station's security officers, his peers, the ones who had laughed at his quiet existence, stepped back, their eyes widened. "Impossible," muttered one of the officers. The girl ignored them. "It is not impossible. Humans, you endure, you adapt, you survive where others fail. You will come with me. You have no choice." Elias shook his head. "No, I have plenty of choice. I fix pipes. I'm nobody." She smiled faintly, though there was no warmth in it. Nobody is exactly what the galaxy needs sometimes, and today, nobody is exactly what I have chosen. That phrase, "what I have chosen," echoed in his mind. The station AI, which had been silently observing, suddenly chimed in, its voice calm and metallic. Selection confirmed. Subject, Elias Trent, designated custodian. Binding protocols activated. Interference prohibited. Elias stumbled back. What does that mean?" It meant that he could not say no. He could not escape. The alien girl had just in a single moment rewritten his life. The people around them, his co-workers, the officers, the diplomats, watched in disbelief. The girl took his hand and tugged him gently but firmly. "There is no time." Elias found himself walking, then running, as corridors blurred past him. He barely had a chance to glance at the blinking lights, the passing maintenance drones, or the massive observation windows that revealed stars stretching into infinity. All he could think about was the girl, and the strange, terrifying certainty of her words. Finally, they reached a hidden bay, one that few humans ever saw. It was large, circular, with smooth walls that glowed faintly. A ship waited inside, unlike anything Elias had seen. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, and the doors opened silently at their approach. "Get in," she said. Elias hesitated, looking back. The station was alive, bustling, ordinary. And now it felt impossibly small, trivial, almost irrelevant. He glanced at the security teams who stood frozen, unsure what to do. Then at the alien girl, whose eyes seemed to burn with a quiet fire. With a trembling hand, he stepped forward. Inside, the ship's interior was warm, bright, and surprisingly quiet. Controls that seemed impossible to understand lit up at his touch, responding as if they had been waiting for him all along. The girl released his hand and gestured toward a viewing window. Outside, the stars stretched in ways he had never imagined, forming paths and patterns that were alive, moving. Where are we going?" he asked. "To a place where the galaxy decides who lives and who disappears," she said, softly. "And you are the one who survives, because you endure, because you fix what is broken." Elias sat down, still trying to process. The ship lifted silently from the bay, and for the first time in his life, he felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The universe, which had never noticed him, now depended on him in ways he could not yet understand. As the station shrank behind them, he realized something fundamental. His life had been ordinary, yes, but perhaps ordinary was exactly the kind of extraordinary the galaxy had never expected. The stars stretched before him, infinite, silent, and waiting. And for the first time, Elias Trent felt that he might actually belong somewhere in them. Elias Trent sat stiffly in the strange ship, his hands gripping the armrests as the stars outside stretched and twisted in ways he had never imagined. His heart pounded, not only from the shock of leaving the station, but from the reality that his life, his ordinary invisible life, had just ended. The alien girl sat across from him, her silvery blue skin glowing faintly under the ship's soft lights. Her eyes never left him. There was a seriousness in her gaze, something that made it impossible to look away. "You have questions," she said softly. Elias swallowed. "You could say that. A lot of questions. Like, who are you? Why me? And why did everyone freeze back there? I'm just me." She tilted her head, the light catching her hair in a way that made it seem alive. "I am Lyra." "And you are chosen, Elias Trent. My people have rules older than your star systems. When one of us is hunted or in danger, we must select a protector. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, not someone who wields power, but someone who endures, who protects, who fixes what is broken." Fixes broken things? "Yes," she said firmly. "That is why you were chosen. Humans have a strength that the galaxy underestimates. You are adaptable, persistent, and willing to face what others ignore. That is rare, and today it is needed." He wanted to argue, he wanted to protest that he had never done anything heroic, that his life had been nothing but repairing airlocks and checking circuits. But when he tried, the words caught in his throat. The way she looked at him made him feel as if his quiet life had meaning he never imagined. The ship glided smoothly, the stars outside bending and forming patterns that made him dizzy. Where are we going?" he asked finally. "To a safe place," Liara said. "My people are being hunted. A force believes we no longer exist, and they will stop at nothing to ensure our extinction. You are now tied to me, and through me, to them. This is why you must come. You cannot refuse. It is not just for my sake. It is for yours as well." Elias took a deep breath, trying to make sense of it all. "So, wait, my life is in danger?" Lyra shook her head. "No. Your life has always had purpose. You just didn't know it. The danger is for all of us. And you, humans, have an ability to endure where others fail. That is what makes you suitable." He stared out the window, trying to process it. All his life, he had thought being ordinary meant being irrelevant. But now he realized that his ordinariness, the patience, the focus, the willingness to repair things no one else wanted, might be exactly what mattered most. Hours passed in silence. The stars outside shifted, and Elias began to notice details he had never seen before. Tiny clusters of light forming new constellations, glowing ribbons of cosmic energy, and vast stretches of empty space that somehow felt alive. He had always dreamed of space as a boy, building small models of ships and imagining adventures, but nothing had prepared him for this reality. Liara finally spoke again. "When we reach the safe zone, there will be others. My people, the few who remain. You will see that the galaxy underestimates humans in ways even I did not understand. But they will learn. I'm not sure I even understand myself right now." "How do you know I'll be able to do anything?" Liara's eyes softened. "Because you already do it without thinking. You fix what is broken. You endure what others flee. You survive because you do not give up. That is rare, and it is valuable. In the right moment, that value can tip the balance of survival for an entire species." Her words settled over him like a heavy cloak. He had always believed that survival was about skill, strength, or power. Now he saw that it could also be about persistence, patience, and quiet determination. He realized that his life of small, unseen victories, the engines repaired, the life support restored, the systems kept running, was preparation for something greater than he had ever imagined. As they approached a dense nebula, Liara pointed to a small cluster of ships hidden among the swirling gas clouds. They were sleek, alien in design, and clearly built for speed and stealth. Elias's eyes widened. "Are those your people?" "Yes," she said. "Some of them. Not all. They are survivors, scattered. They hide because our enemies believe we are extinct. But with you, things will change. Your presence is unusual."
"Humans are underestimated. That gives us an advantage."
He nodded slowly. The thought that humans, his kind, his people, could have value on a galactic scale was almost unbelievable. He had never thought of Earthlings as anything special. They were ordinary, adaptable, and persistent, but that was exactly what made them unpredictable. And now he was beginning to understand that ordinary might be extraordinary in ways no one expected. The ship finally docked in a hidden bay carved into an asteroid. The interior was smooth, warm, and welcoming, unlike the cold industrial spaces he was used to. Several figures approached, cautious but alert. They were Lara's people, tall, elegant, their features unfamiliar yet strangely familiar in their expressions of curiosity. They looked at him with a mix of awe and confusion. "You are human," one of them said. "Yes," Elias replied, his voice uncertain. Liara smiled faintly. "And he endures," she said. "That is enough." The others exchanged glances, whispering in their strange language. Elias could not understand the words, but the tone carried respect. He had expected suspicion or dismissal, not this quiet acknowledgement. One of them, older than the rest, stepped forward. "He is not what we expected. Perhaps the galaxy has been wrong about humans all along." Elias felt a flush of pride. It was strange, almost dizzying, to be noticed in this way. He had never sought recognition, and yet here it was, given freely, simply because he had lived his life quietly, carefully, and persistently. Liara led him to a small room where he could rest. The bed was soft, unlike the metal cots he was used to on the station. He sat down, still trying to process the events of the day.
"Will I be safe here?"
he asked. "You will be," Liara said. For now. But your role is just beginning. There will be tests, challenges. You will need to act in ways you have never imagined. The galaxy will not wait for humans to learn slowly. You must act, endure, and protect. Elias nodded, though he did not fully understand what that meant. He had never been a hero. He had never fought wars or negotiated peace between alien empires. He had fixed broken things, quietly and faithfully. And now that simple skill, combined with human persistence, might be the most powerful force in the galaxy. Night came. Though it was not like the night he had known on Earth. Outside, the stars blazed endlessly. Inside, the soft lights of the asteroid base glowed like warmth in a dark void. He lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and realized that he had not felt fear like this before, nor the strange thrill of possibility. He thought of the station, of the small, unnoticed life he had led, and he understood something fundamental. Survival was not always about strength or power. Sometimes it was about patience, persistence, and the quiet ability to endure. And for the first time, he realized that the galaxy might need humans, just as he was. Morning, or what passed for morning in the asteroid base, brought new activity. Liara guided him to a briefing room, where holographic maps displayed the surrounding sectors. Lines traced potential threats, unknown fleets, and areas of safe passage. Elias tried to make sense of the data. It was overwhelming, but something inside him clicked. This looks broken, he said suddenly, pointing at a segment of the map. If the sensors are right, that route is unstable. Ships could get lost. Maybe we can fix it, make it safer. Liara looked at him, eyes wide. You see what others do not? He shrugged. I'm a mechanic. I fix things. Maybe I can fix this too, the others murmured. Elias realized that they had not expected a human to even suggest a solution. They had relied on calculations, intelligence, and instinct. But here was someone whose ordinary experience, fixing, repairing, enduring, gave him insight they did not have. And in that moment, Elias Trent understood the strange truth of his new life. The galaxy had chosen him not because he was extraordinary, but because he was human. Persistent, adaptable, ordinary in the ways that mattered most. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. You will learn, Elias Trent. You will understand, and the galaxy will notice humans in ways no one expects. He nodded, still overwhelmed, still afraid, but also filled with a quiet, simmering determination. Perhaps this was what it meant to be ordinary. Perhaps ordinary was enough. And perhaps, just perhaps, ordinary could change everything. Elias Trent woke to a soft hum filling the asteroid base. Outside, the stars glimmered through reinforced windows. But inside, activity had already begun. Lara moved among the other aliens with ease, her presence commanding respect without a word. Elias rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep, and realized he had never been in a place so alive with purpose. Good morning, Liara said, appearing beside him. Her voice was calm, but there was a sharp edge to it, the kind of edge that demanded attention. Today you will see why you were chosen. Elias followed her to the briefing room, where the other members of her species had gathered. Holographic maps displayed sectors of space far beyond anything Elias had seen. Lines, dots, and shifting symbols indicated fleets, anomalies, and hidden threats. It was overwhelming, but Liara guided him patiently. These are our enemies, she said, pointing to one cluster of red markers. They believe we no longer exist. They will attempt to eliminate us if given the chance.
Elias squinted. And we just hide? Liara shook her head.
Not hide. We survive. And survival requires more than strength. It requires foresight, adaptation, and endurance.
That is why you are here, Elias Trent.
He swallowed. Me? Why me? I just fix things. I'm not a soldier or a fighter. You do not need to be, she said.
You think differently. You see solutions that others overlook.
You endure, even under pressure. That is what my people need now.
Elias felt a flicker of pride, though it was tangled with fear. He had never imagined that simply repairing engines and keeping systems running would matter on a galactic scale. And yet, here he was, expected to contribute to a survival plan that could save an entire species. Their first task was simple in theory: navigate a fleet of ships through a dangerous nebula. Sensors had reported instability, energy fluctuations, and strange currents that could easily disorient even experienced pilots. Elias watched as the alien commanders debated routes, each suggestion cautious and slow. He could not stay silent. Wait, he said finally, pointing at a section of the map. This path, it looks unstable, yes. But if we follow the currents here and adjust the trajectory gradually, we can get through safely. I think. His voice faltered, but he continued. I think I can make the calculations work. All eyes turned to him. He felt every gaze like a weight on his chest. Liara stepped forward. Show us? Elias moved to the control panel. He had never navigated a fleet before, but he had studied systems, engines, and energy flows for years. Slowly, carefully, he adjusted the proposed route, factoring in currents, sensor delays, and timing. The holographic ships shifted on the map, responding to his inputs. The aliens watched in disbelief as the route stabilized. It works, one whispered. He understands patterns we overlooked. Elias swallowed hard. It's not perfect, but it's safer than any path you've proposed. Liara's eyes shone.
Exactly. You think differently because you are human.
That perspective, it is rare, and it is why you were chosen. The fleet launched through the nebula. Elias watched from the control room as the ships navigated swirling clouds of gas and energy. Moments of tension rose and fell, but each time the currents threatened to push a ship off course, Elias called out adjustments. Pilots obeyed, trusting a human they barely understood. Hours passed. The nebula gave way to open space, and the fleet emerged intact. Cheers and relieved murmurs filled the room, though Elias hardly noticed. He was still processing the reality of what he had done. He had helped guide an entire fleet through deadly space. He had survived, and more importantly, he had proven that humans could contribute in ways even the galaxy's most advanced species could not anticipate. After the successful passage, Liara led him to a quiet observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around them, but Elias's mind was not on the view. It was on what had just happened. You see now, she said softly. Strength is not always muscle or weapon. Intelligence alone is not enough, but endurance, adaptability, persistence, these are traits humans possess in ways others rarely understand. You have them, Elias Trent. He nodded, still catching his breath. I never thought of it like that. I fix what's broken. Exactly, Liara said, a small smile touching her lips. And sometimes, fixing what is broken saves lives. Today, you did more than survive. You ensured survival for others. Elias felt a strange warmth spread through him. Pride, yes, but also a new sense of purpose. For the first time, he understood that his ordinary life had not been meaningless. Every engine repaired, every panel adjusted, every unnoticed act of care had prepared him for this moment. Their rest was short-lived. Alarms soon rang throughout the base. The fleet had detected unknown ships approaching. Liara quickly gathered the team. They have found us, she said, and they will not wait to act. Elias felt fear coil in his stomach. He had never faced combat, never fired a weapon, never negotiated with species who might decide his life was irrelevant. But he forced himself to breathe, to focus. Liara handed him a control pad. You will coordinate escape routes, she said.
Your calculations guided the fleet through the nebula. Now you will guide us again.
Watch the energy patterns, the gravitational shifts. Tell us where to go, and we will follow. Elias swallowed hard. This was more than navigating currents in space. Lives depended on him. But he thought back to every engine he had fixed, every repair he had made on the station. The principle was the same. Observe, calculate, adjust, endure. Minutes passed like hours. Elias called out coordinates, predicted shifts, and instructed pilots on minor adjustments. His heart raced, but slowly, the fleet moved. The unknown ships followed, but the fleet stayed one step ahead. Elias's confidence grew. He realized that fear could be managed when purpose was clear, when persistence guided every action. By the time the fleet reached the relative safety of a hidden sector, Elias was exhausted, but exhilarated. Liara approached him, her eyes bright. You see, even in danger you endure, you adapt, you protect. This is why humans are underestimated, and why they are vital. Elias shook his head, still struggling to believe it. I'm just a mechanic.
I never thought I'd do something like this,
Lyra smiled. And that is why it works. You did not act for glory. You did not seek recognition. You acted because it was necessary, because it was the right thing to do. That is human strength. Over the next few days, Elias began to understand the rhythm of this new life. He learned to read alien systems, to anticipate changes in energy currents and to offer solutions when others hesitated. His role was not glamorous, not heroic in the traditional sense, but it was essential. He was the one who could see the paths that others overlooked, the one who could fix problems before they became crises. One evening, he and Liara sat on the observation deck, watching stars drift past. "Do you think humans are really special?" he asked quietly. Liara considered him. Special is not the right word. Valuable, persistent, adaptable, enduring. That is why you are here. That is why you matter. Elias smiled faintly. He had spent his life believing he was irrelevant, invisible. And now he realized that the galaxy had been wrong. Humans, ordinary humans, could make a difference where power and skill alone failed. He thought of Earth, of the small life he had left behind, of the mechanics, engineers, and ordinary people who quietly held things together. They were not leaders, not warriors, not rulers, but they endured. And endurance, he now knew, could change the course of history. The next day brought another challenge. Sensors detected a cluster of unstable asteroids blocking a key passage the fleet needed to navigate. The alien commanders debated the route for hours, unsure of how to proceed. Elias stepped forward. "I think I can calculate a path," he said. "We'll need precise timing and constant adjustment, but it can work." They looked at him skeptically. He could see doubt in their eyes. But he had faced doubt before. Every broken system on the station had doubted him, and yet he had fixed them all. He took a deep breath and began working. Hours passed, and slowly the fleet followed his calculations. Ships wove between massive rocks, adjusting to shifts and currents he had predicted. The path was treacherous, but Elias's focus never wavered. When the last ship cleared the danger zone, the room erupted in quiet applause. Lyra smiled at him. "You see? You did not need weapons. You did not need powers. You needed patience, focus, and persistence. That is why humans endure. That is why you were chosen." Elias sat back, exhausted, but proud. He had survived, he had adapted, and he had protected. He was still a mechanic at heart, still ordinary by most standards, but the galaxy had begun to notice. For the first time, Elias Trent felt that ordinary humans might be the most extraordinary force in the universe. Elias Trent had spent weeks learning the rhythm of life among Liara's people. He still called himself a mechanic, still thought of himself as ordinary, but the galaxy was beginning to tell him otherwise. Every day brought challenges, routes to calculate, ships to guide, and crises to prevent. But he was no longer invisible. The alien fleet had come to rely on him in ways he had never imagined, and slowly he was starting to understand the power of ordinary persistence. Today, however, felt different. There was a tension in the air that even Lyra could not hide. Holographic maps glowed with new clusters of unknown ships moving toward the fleet. Unlike before, these were not scattered. They were coordinated, efficient, and unmistakably hunting. "They've discovered our location," Lyra said quietly, as Elias joined her in the control room. Her eyes searched his face for fear, but she found only determination. "We must move quickly, and this time, they will not make mistakes. We cannot rely solely on hiding or maneuvering. We must show them why humans endure." Elias swallowed hard. He had faced challenges before, but this felt like a test of more than just skill. It was a test of humanity itself. He was not a soldier, not a diplomat, not a ruler. He was a mechanic, and yet here he was, trusted to make decisions that could save entire species. "Where do we start?" he asked. Liara gestured to the map. "The enemy fleet is closing. Our sensors indicate they are capable of adjusting faster than we are. We need a plan that uses what they cannot anticipate. That is where you come in. Energy currents, gravitational anomalies, and hidden asteroid fields stretched across the sector. The enemy would expect standard maneuvers, but he thought of what he had learned as a mechanic. Systems have weak points, currents have flows, and small adjustments can prevent disasters. "I have an idea," he said finally. "If we divide the fleet into smaller groups and use the currents in these sectors, we can confuse them. They'll follow the wrong ships, and the rest can move safely through." Liara raised her eyebrows. "Explain." Elias pointed to the map. "We send a few ships through the predictable routes. They'll be bait. The rest follow a path that reacts to the currents and anomalies in real time. We can adjust as we go. It won't be perfect, but it gives us a chance to survive."
One of the alien commanders, tall and silver-skinned, studied him silently.
"You propose a risky plan?" they said. Elias nodded.
Yes, but it's better than waiting.
"We adapt, we endure, and we protect. That's what humans do." Liara smiled faintly.
Exactly.
"That is why you were chosen." The fleet moved into position. Elias guided them with precision, his mind calculating shifts, adjustments, and reactions. Each call he made was simple yet exact. Move slightly left, adjust power output, follow the energy currents. The fleet responded, and the enemy reacted, but always a step behind. Hours passed, tension rising with every moment. Yet the strategy worked. Enemy ships were drawn toward the decoy paths, confused by currents and anomalies they could not predict. The main fleet navigated safely, relying on Elias's calculations. When the last ship cleared the danger zone, the room erupted. Cheers filled the control room, though Elias felt a quiet satisfaction rather than triumph. He had done what he had always done, repaired, calculated, guided. Only now, the stakes were infinitely higher. Liara approached him, her eyes bright. "You see? You did not need weapons, powers, or armies. You needed patience, focus, and persistence. You guided us when others would have panicked. That is human strength."
Elias shook his head, still trying to believe it. "I'm just
"A mechanic. I just fix things. That's all I've ever done. And that is why it works," Liara said.
You act because it is necessary, not for glory. That is why humans endure.
That is why the galaxy will notice you. Over the next few days, word of Elias's actions spread quietly. Other species, observing the fleet's survival, began to reclassify humanity in their galactic records. Humans were no longer just ordinary. They were stabilizers, protectors, problem solvers. They endured when others failed. Elias still felt ordinary, but the galaxy had begun to see what he already knew. Humans adapt, persist, and protect. That was a power no one had expected. One evening, Lyra led him to a large hall where other species had gathered. Elias felt a wave of nervousness. He was not a leader, not a diplomat. He was a mechanic, yet all eyes turned to him. Whispers filled the hall. The human who had guided the fleet. The one who had endured. Liara stepped forward.
They underestimated humans, she said. They thought ordinary would be weak, but humans endure.
They adapt, they protect, and today, the galaxy must recognize their strength.
Elias stepped forward, unsure what to do.
He did not want praise. He did not seek recognition. Yet the room watched him, expecting words. He cleared his throat. He was chasing. I just did what I had to do, he said simply. I watched, I calculated, I adjusted. That's what humans do. We fix what is broken. We endure. And sometimes that's enough to save others. The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. not loud, not chaotic, but steady and respectful. Aliens from many species nodded, whispered to each other, and acknowledged that this human, ordinary, persistent, enduring, had changed their understanding of what humans could do. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He had never imagined that his simple life could matter on such a scale, and yet here he was, proof that ordinary humans could have extraordinary impact. Liara took his hand.
You see now, Elias Trent, this is why you were chosen.
Not because you are special, not because you are stronger or smarter, but because you endure. That is a power the galaxy cannot ignore. He nodded, finally understanding. Humanity's strength had never been in weapons or fleets, in genetics or psychic powers. It had been in endurance, adaptability, and the quiet willingness to act when needed. And now the galaxy would see what he had always known. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and preparation. The enemy fleet had retreated, but the threat remained. Elias guided repair teams, recalculated safe routes, and taught others to observe patterns and adapt. His ordinary skills, precision, patience, and persistence, became invaluable. One morning, as he repaired a minor system fault in the fleet's energy grid, Liara appeared beside him. "Elias Trent," she said softly, "do you realize what you have done? The galaxy now respects humans. You have changed their perception. And yet you remain the same. Ordinary, persistent, enduring. That is the true power." Elias smiled faintly. "I don't feel like a hero." "You don't need to," Lyra said. "Heroes are not always recognized. Humans endure quietly, and that endurance can shape the fate of worlds." He looked out the window at the stars, endless and bright. For years he had lived quietly on a station, invisible and unnoticed. Now he realized that ordinary could be extraordinary, that persistence, patience, and quiet action could save lives, shape civilizations, and even change the galaxy's understanding of humanity. Elias Trent tightened a bolt on a panel, as he had done thousands of times before. His hands were steady, precise, and calm. But behind him, history had shifted. The galaxy had noticed humans, and it had noticed him. As he finished the last adjustment, he felt a sense of peace he had never known. Ordinary, yes. Invisible, no. Persistent, enduring human. Yes. Liara stood beside him, watching silently. "The galaxy will remember today," she said. "Not because of battles or weapons, but because of what humans can endure. And one day it will remember your name." Elias Trent nodded. For the first time, he believed it. He returned to his work, tightening bolts, adjusting panels, watching systems hum with life. Around him, the alien fleet prepared for the next journey. Outside, stars stretched into infinity, waiting for humans to endure and protect once more. And Elias Trent, ordinary mechanic turned galactic custodian, understood that being human had always been enough. The galaxy had changed, and so had he.